Action. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Alexa Linton and Laura Bird here. Hi, we're here to talk to you about animal communication stuff again. And today we would love to focus in on something that is a bit of a theme that's quite close to both of our hearts because of the work that we've done therapeutically with domestic animals and pets. And that is that we are noticing that there are themes in the contracts or the, arrangements that these domestic animals and pets especially have made with humans. So it's pretty exciting when you start to notice how cool it is that en masse these animals have entered agreements with humanity. You know, figuring you guys are on the call. Hi, Michelle. Just people as they're jumping on. Hey, Pamela. Hi, Taja.
Yeah. And Brianne and Brittany. I know you're there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is wherever possible. We'd love this to be an interactive webinar. And if you have any questions, jump in with those questions. They always make it a little bit richer and a little bit fuller. And
and just so everybody knows, we're going to be posting this up onto my new podcast, the Whole Horse Podcast, afterwards as well. So there may be a slight favoritism towards the horse, but only slight.
That can happen anyway with Alexa and I.
Pretty much. We're both kind of very obsessed. So if you notice that's that's where we're veering a little bit more, that is one reason why, and just general horse obsession as well. I'm really happy you're all tuning in. For those who are from Canada, those that I know in Australia, it's really great to thanks, Michelle. Michelle's representing the canines, so that's wonderful. I'm here representing the felines as well, so it tends to be my, you'll understand a little later on what we mean by that. Hey, Laura.
So first and foremost, it's totally fine if you've got favorites. Like, I'm figuring that you're on this call because you have pets, because you are aware that there's something that goes on between us and our pets, why we choose our pets, why our pets choose us, why we're drawn to even certain species. Why are some people cat people? Why are some people horse people? Why are some people dog people? And that happens even if you love all animals. There sort of seems to be an area that you're really kind of pulled into, or a place that you're identifying with. And that can also change over the course of your life. And today's webinar or this conversation really is to explore why that is, because when we communicate with animals, and I think today we're just going to jump in, we're going to figure that you kind of know who we are by now. You might have been on one of our other calls, and so I'm not going to waste my time introducing myself. Or
you're not gonna give a big story.
No, I'm not going to give a big story because there's too much other stuff that we need to get through. We're going to struggle to get through it anyway. We're going to struggle.
We're going to try.
We're going to try. We're just full steam ahead with this.
This is our kind of promise to you, is that we'll get you out of here somewhere around an hour today. So, But we'll also promise that there will be some amazing stuff being shared here. So we're happy that you're here live, and we'll also, I'm assuming we're going to have a question and answer period available at the end too.
Absolutely.
So hang tight. And if you do have questions, don't be afraid to pop them in the chat box as well. And we'll kind of, if they apply during our conversation, we'll get to them. And then if it's a little bit more something that we feel would be helpful at the end of the conversation, then that's great too. So, yeah.
There's never a bad time for questions, and there are never any silly questions. Please, we're all just here to learn. And if you've got a question, just type it in there. So there's probably a little foundation place that I should start from. And I mentioned just before that Alexa and I, because we do therapeutic work with animals. So we've both kind of got into this. Alexa was doing a lot of equine massage work, and as many of you know, I was doing equine Bowen therapy, and then I started to incorporate and do that also with dogs. And interestingly, like, don't get me wrong, like, I've treated cats. I'm sure you've treated cats, Alexa, but
I have harder with body work, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And cats are more like self-sufficient and self-contained when it comes to their health.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and that's one of the kind of features of what it is that we started to learn as we went through and as we did what we did. Today really is about that. You know, we receive information, communication from our animals all the time. But sometimes when we do this work, and if you've been on one of the other calls, you'll know that there's lots of different ways of picking up intuitive information. And sometimes the hardest thing is to figure out what the fuck it all means. So these themes are really designed to give you some little bit of guidance around what context might we view that information in. Because usually when our animals are talking to us, or when we get to a place where we realize that our job is to listen to them, there's something going on, we need to listen, there's something valuable that we can learn in that moment. There's something there's an aha moment, like a light bulb moment that we're waiting for. And sometimes we get this kind of weird intuitive information. It might be a feeling or something visual, and we don't really understand the context of that. It doesn't make sense. So today, hopefully, we'll start to give you some of the foundation, some of the framework through which to view that information, so that maybe it makes a little bit more sense to you. We're going to talk about things that are generalized. So I realize that when I talk about dogs, I'm not talking about all dogs. And when I talk about cats, I'm not talking about all cats. And when I'm talking about horses, I'm not talking about all horses. Because everyone is unique and everyone is individual. And there are some energetic themes or frequencies that I'm going to introduce to you in a moment, that I want you to know that even though different species sit within those themes, every individual has all of these frequencies within them. So we are all, if you kind of have looked at any holographic theory around energy work, is that the whole contains all of the parts, and each part contains all of the whole. So individuals are individuals, but sometimes it is valuable to look at patterns. And so there are definitely patterns with the messages that dogs bring us versus the messages that cats bring us versus the messages that horses bring us. They work with us in different ways in our life, and generally speaking, if you have an issue with, or you're having a conversation with one of those different animals, and I'm just talking about those three because they're the main domestic pets that we have in Australia and Canada. So in other parts of the world, it might look a little different, but actually, that said, dogs and cats, are, even when you travel, and I've done a lot of travel in Indonesia and Thailand, in the developing world, you'll see dogs and cats play a really, really important role in that domestic process as well. Maybe not so many horses, although horses can be part of it, but definitely dogs and cats. And that will make sense to you as we get into it. So the first foundation that you guys need to be aware of in what I want to explain to you is that we have different energetic frequencies or pathways that we move through. It's like, if you can think of them as like musical notes on a scale, one follows another, follows another, follows another. There's a natural progression. There are certain runs in music that make sense. And energetically, as we move through our lives, or as we scan through our bodies, everything that is alive and vibrating is moving through these frequencies and is utilizing these frequencies. There is, different understandings of what I'm talking about in different kinds of medicine. So if you look at traditional Ayurvedic medicine and you look at Eastern philosophy, we start to look at the chakra system, which most of you will be a little bit familiar with. Is the chakra system, and what I'm talking about is not the chakra system, but the chakra system is also part of that. So I'm talking about something that's vaster than these energy centers in our body. I'm talking about stuff that exists in like a bigger organism, not just my body, but like the organism of the planet. And different parts play different roles in that whole. So the first frequency, I'm going to just kind of like do the quickest run through all the frequencies. There's no way I can talk about them all because we're just going to run out of time.
Yes.
In fact, I may not even get like through all of them. I might kind of get to like the horse energy and then kind of stop there. But I think it's valuable to mention the first frequency, which is like a reptilian energy. And bless you.
Thank you.
My dear. As you can see, Alexa is rugged up for the winter.
And Laura is in 30 degrees Celsius weather.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've got the full spectrum going.
Yeah, so if you're on the West Coast, you know that it's like stormy and rainy and out. So
in Canada, the reptiles are now hibernating.
And in Australia, they're all like,
woohoo, laying out on a rock, getting sunny and
totally.
Yeah. So this is this energy is really like the starting point of consciousness. So the reason that the reptile energy comes in here is because it's very ancient energy. It traces back like to dinosaurs and things like that, but also in our body it has a link to the most primal parts of self, our reptilian brain, which is not where we think or feel, it's where we are in complete survival mode. So it's the deepest core of our being, our central nervous system. And it's really where our concern is primarily for self and for safety of self and the protection of self. So when you see a snake and you go, ah! And this actually happened at one of our workshops at Alexa.
Yes. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So Laura's had like literally talking. Was it the level 2?
No, I was talking about the snake.
Level 1.
I was talking about,
and she started talking about this frequency, and all of a sudden there was this primal scream from the group, and this little garter snake, this gorgeous little, she was like green and black.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Slithered up to this gal at the end of the row of chairs who had she had quite the fear of snakes. And he just was like looking at her like, hi, and just to make
all the feet went up on chairs. Everybody.
Oh my God, she was like literally like like off the ground. Oh my God, we're all like, what is going on? But it couldn't have been a better moment. It was like he was just like waiting in the wings for his moment to shine. And be like, offer up this teaching around the central nervous system and reactivity.
Yeah. And the important thing is, and it was such a beautiful moment because what happens is that we're not operating at this, we're usually operating in one of these frequencies depending on our environment and depending on the situation. So, this snake energy made us really realize like how powerful it is. In that moment, we are so focused on self and the survival of self that we'll climb up on someone else and be like, bite them, get them,
I know. I was surprised that Bonnie didn't climb into someone else's lap at that point. And it's that same energy, everyone, that, Laura often talks about this. It's like when you're drowning and that nervous system kicks in, someone will come out to save you. You'll drown them instead because you're not thinking, around, there's no altruism in you at that point.
No, there's no thought of others. Yeah, it's the number one and the energy of one and the singularity of one and the consciousness of being first your own survival being the most important thing. So when little babies are born into the world, I mean, obviously their souls have had other experiences and things like that, but when they're little babies born into the world, their focus is primarily on self. They don't care mum's not getting enough sleep. They don't really care. They will just scream until their primal needs are met. And usually, you know, we live, thankfully, in Australia and Canada in a world where very rarely does a situation arise where we flick into this mode, like maybe drowning at the beach is one of them, or like a snake coming up.
Yeah, especially for you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I remember I was on my horse Buzz at the beach one day, and a dolphin was just playing a dirty, rotten trick on me and kind of like did the whole shark thing, and the fin was like, you know, I could hear the Jaws music, and I pulled my little feet up on Buzz and I was like, eat my horse! Which
did you feel like slightly ashamed after, like slightly guilty?
I did. I felt a bit bad about it. But it was like, you know, it was a really valuable teaching moment. I mean, dolphins are playful and they'll play practical jokes like that anyway. And thankfully, Buzz is a practical joke player. So he, you know, I'm sure he was actually probably in on it.
Yeah, but we see it like so often. I know with Diva, where she'll be like, "Oh my God, it's a leaf that's flowing across the road." You know, like logically, we go like, you know, it's a leaf blowing across the road. But for them, it's like that reptilian brain is turned on and 100% needing safety, right?
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful example of how, you know, even though horses are like, they kind of primarily hold a different frequency, the animals in general are way more connected to this primal survival frequency. You know, often we think about like, you know, we struggle to understand why in that moment they would run over the top of us, or they would even do something silly that endangers their own safety. But so that primal mechanism is so powerful. And I often find that even human beings, when we struggle, and it's a really great example, when we struggle with that frequency, when we struggle with that part of ourselves that is so selfish for our own survival that we are not even thinking about anyone else, we often do have issues with snakes, sharks, you know,
spiders.
There's this real reaction to these animals that we think are cold and evil and not feeling, and you know, we actually don't even see the other parts of them. Oh, Ruby's in the background. We, you know, and so we make a judgment about these animals. And in actual fact, that is a communication to us about our level of discomfort with the part of us that will survive at any costs. And my other little theory about that is because we live a life where we can be so disconnected from this first frequency, we can be so disconnected from that primal part of ourselves, it actually on a lot of levels causes us anxiety. So we have actually forgotten how to survive on our own. We don't know how to hunt anymore. We don't know how to grow. Like, I'm not even very good at growing veggies. Like, you know, if the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm in deep shit. Cause
besides the fact that, like, can you even run?
Not that fast. No.
That's what I get a little nervous about. I'm like, maybe I need to start running just so I can at least like not be the first one eaten.
But this is why running and doing that kind of exercise is so important for anxiety and depression and things like that.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and doing things like having water features, I think one of the reasons feng shui, like having water features around, is so soothing for the soul, is on some level the sound of running water tells our reptilian brain there's water, which means my need for water is met. I can grow things and animals are going to come so I can hunt. So I'm safe. And, you know, so being able to do those primal things, digging in the dirt, running, having running water, those things are so good for our soul because it takes away this deep anxiety that our soul has about, oh my God, what if I can't keep this body alive? Like, what if my primal needs aren't met? And we know we can go to the supermarket, but it doesn't stimulate or nurture that frequency within us. And this like fear of creepy crawlies and snakes and spiders and all of that stuff, that is that fear showing itself to us. So these animals often turn up to try and like heal that within us. So the next thing that happens, and you know, if you wanted to look at this in terms of chakra systems, this is your base chakra, and and it's like that most primal level of self. It's where we all start. It's where our journey begins, is self. And then the next thing that happens is we get a little bit older, or we become aware of family, of tribe. And this is really where animals like dogs share this frequency so powerfully. They are loyal. So they embody all this energy around loyalty, around tribe, around sticking together, and the pack, that being the most important thing. And, you know, often if we are going to see animals that suffer from separation anxiety, we're dealing with dogs. So, you know, this...
I've never met a cat with separation anxiety.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, does anybody know a cat with separation anxiety? If you think your cat has separation anxiety, it's probably misdiagnosed. It's probably something else.
Or they're more like a dog cat.
They may be a dog cat, yeah. If you don't have a dog in your life, they may be holding that space.
Yeah.
So, you know, dogs really, you know, especially the role they play in childhood. And, you know, one of my favorite stories is about, you know, this famous thing that that Jane Goodall said about really the dog, her childhood dog showed her the, like, humanity, the emotion, the depth and complexity of animals' feelings. So it was her dog that connected her to this idea of, like, tribe and commonality between us and the animals. And that then served her well in later years when she began to observe the chimpanzees and started to notice things about their personalities and their uniqueness that could not have been observed purely through a scientific mind. So in our bodies, this frequency sits around our reproductive organs. So it's the place where mothers connect to their babies, babies connect to their mothers, that whole umbilicus, the sacral chakra, the navel area. This is all very much about this family connection. Another animal that, and if you've done my animal communication course, or you've done the level 1 with Alexa in Canada as well, you'll notice that we go into, like, big animals that share these frequencies. So the first frequency is represented by the crocodile, and the second is by the elephant. And the elephant, again, if you can, you know, you can picture this, like, string of elephants walking along with the babies hanging onto their mums' tails. That connection and the way that they protect each other is super important. So in this frequency, others becomes more important than self. Mm-hmm. And I know I was going to run through all the frequencies, but I kind of feel like we're on a journey.
We're doing good. We're, like, not, we're pretty good on time and things.
Yeah, so. let's go on the
journey. Dive in.
Let's dive in. So one of the key things that I really noticed about working with dogs is that they are incredibly selfless. So as opposed to that first frequency where it's all about self, dogs are really all about others, all about serving. So much so that one of the big things that comes up, when people start to notice, wow, my dog's got this stuff going on. That's kind of the same as the stuff that I've got going on. Am I projecting that onto my animal? Is my animal taking that on? And a lot of the time, dogs will, because they live so intimately with us. They live in our home with us. They share our bedrooms with us. Sometimes they share our beds with us. They're really in that, like, tight family unit. They don't see separateness. I've got all the birds busy today. We've had the kookaburras and now the crows are going, and they really don't see separateness. So it's like to ask a dog to not share your energy with you or share your behavioral symptoms or even your physical symptoms is like asking them to not be a dog.
Yeah.
It's the essence of what they are. They are there to serve. They see no distinction between tribe and self.
Pack is everything.
Pack is everything. And that is why it's so traumatic for dogs, and why so many dogs suffer from separation anxiety, because for them to be separate from their pack is a survival issue. It actually is something that that threatens their well-being. They really, really need to be connected to us and to feel safe in that space. Now, I know that doesn't mean we can be home with our dogs all the time, but just even that understanding around that can be so powerful.
Well, it's amazing, even looking at the studies they've done with dogs, and, videoing dogs, those dogs are already like 10 minutes before their human comes home. They're up and ready, and they know, and they're, fully connected to, it doesn't matter what time. It's like they're, you can see the connection through that sort of interaction, right? They're totally tuned into where their person is.
Yeah. And because of that, one of the things that is so powerful is to recognize that the dog's experience of the world is one where that family matrix, and matrices is kind of like module 3 of the stuff that we talk about in our animal communication program. But that matrix of the family connection is so strong for them that even if you're on the other side of the world, or you are in the office and you get up from your desk to gather your bags to come home, they can feel and sense that. Mm-hmm. They can feel and sense that movement, because that is their experience, is that you are like an extension of them and they are an extension of you. There's this like umbilicus is really, So kinds of themes that dogs will bring into our awareness that maybe other animals won't, and all of this will be situational specific depending on the information that you're getting, but a lot of the time they are going and they're working with the part of us that maybe has some form of lack or some trauma or some deficiency in that feeling of tribal safety. So they may be working with our connection to our tribe of origin, and usually it is our tribe of origin. It's when we were children and the things that we learned about the world when we were children, the connection to our parents and our siblings, our litter mates, and the belief systems that we learn then. And we're so deeply impressionable during that period of our lives. There's so much that we carry around to this day now that we learnt as children. Think of how easy it was to get convinced that the tooth fairy was real and that Santa Claus was real. Sorry I hope there's no kids on the call. We probably need a disclaimer.
I don't think you've ruined any lives.
No, yeah. We believe things so easily as children, and we take on the systems of our family without question. Even if our family is really dysfunctional, we kind of have this unconditional love for them that, maybe later as an adult, as we go through life, we realize that was like a dysfunctional situation, or it wasn't how love or families are meant to be. But in the moment, we kind of accept it without question, because our connection and our value and the importance of others is far, far greater than self. So we often are still carrying things, and dogs will really highlight this for us and bring to us themes about that part of our lives. And it can go the other way as well, where, really it's very rare that I see people treat their cats like babies. Oh, Ruby's having a bark. Hopefully that's not too annoying. It's her favourite pastime at the moment. She just likes to yell at neighbours, It's like a little old nana with dementia. She just goes out there and just gives it to them. So, very rarely do people treat their cats like babies, because cats don't tolerate that shit. Because cats are already in the next frequency. They're already doing teenager shit. They're like, stuff you. Yeah. I'm going out partying with my friends. Where have you been? I'm not telling you, You're meant to be home at this time. No, No, I've been out hunting and doing things. Cats have a secret life that you know nothing about.
Completely. I feel like Parker completely cheats on me constantly.
Yeah. You would have no
He's
idea.
like going and eating at the neighbors and getting snuggles and
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably got like a backpack stashed somewhere with like alcohol and drugs in it.
Completely.
So he can just go out partying, and he'll just be like, I'm just gonna like go and stay at my friend's house, and then he's like off, you know, he's like changed his outfit, he's smoking cigarettes on the corner, like he's doing the whole thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sure.
So,
dogs. I mean, oh my gosh, Riley met his first human baby the other day.
Yeah.
And it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. So Riley is 110 pounds. He's a Wolfhound cross. And he was like, like you could see it in his face, like, oh my God. And he was like licking these little 4-month-old hands, you know, and like gently licking. Like he's got teeth that are this big. Licking his little face, and he's going over to mama, and then he's going back to baby, and he's like, oh, you two are connected, and the baby was crying, and Riley's like, oh dear. And I was like, oh my God, this is the cutest. Yeah.
It's adorable. And the way hey Ruby, you've come back.
And Parker would probably be like, I'm not going within 100 feet of that thing. It is making noises I do not like. You know.
Yeah. Do I kill it and eat it? Is that is it too big? Yeah.
Right.
It's a very different energy, and you know our relationship with dogs in general will in some way mirror or hold an essence of our experiences as children with our tribe of origin. And also, and you know, I know we've got a couple of dog trainers on the call, but really, you know, a lot of the time we learn even how to train and be with our dogs from our family, and then we start to when we move out and we get dogs of our own, it's like starting our own family. We start to reevaluate that and go, wow, like when I was a kid, you know, we used to smack the dog. And you know, if it went to the toilet in the house, you'd rub its nose in it and kick it outside, and there was all this kind of behavior, and we repeat it as adults, and when we move out and get our own dogs, and then all of a sudden we start to question: is there a better way to do this? Is there a different way of approaching this? And a lot of the themes that dogs bring up are around that. And so there's like the good side, there's the healthy side, there's the bonding and the love because dogs will love you even if you treat them mean. Dogs.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I wanted to highlight that. So one of the things about dogs was like you just said, Laura, where it's like they'll stay with you even if you beat them. They'll come back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cats will not.
Cats will just, you know, disappear, move somewhere else.
They're like, I'm going to go to the neighbors.
Yeah. I've already got something lined up. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting to you, Parker. Don't you worry.
Oh yeah. He's like, hello. I'm feeling it coming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, really when you receive communication from your dog and it doesn't make sense, some of the things to think about, and I'm actually reading off, I've got a little
your chart.
I've got a little chart here. So this is part of the stuff that you'll get when you do module 2. But we cover a lot of this in way more detail. Also, there's a little online course where we spend like a whole webinar on each of these frequencies so that it kind of makes sense because there's so much in there. But really, we're looking at themes around so this is like belief systems that you may have or value, the way you value these things and the way you think about these things to do with tribe, tradition, things that are like traditional within our being and things that we've inherited, ceremony, wisdom, others being the most important thing. We also have a lot of a lot of the time dogs will bring up fear for us as well, fear and superstition. So you know, I've spoken to a lot of people that have a fear of dogs, that might have been bitten by dogs as children. And there's a theme even there around my tribe didn't protect me, or my community didn't protect me from this dog. And therefore I just now feel unsafe. And that can really get in the way of like being able to trust others, being able to kind of feel that not that so the safety that comes with the first frequency is like a bodily safety, the safety of and protection of your body, but the dogs really teach us a lot about how emotionally safe do we feel, how our relationships, are we needy in that, you know, do we have separation anxiety, or do we feel a little bit betrayed by that whole family unit? Did we feel unsafe in that? Has it got in the way of our relationships? And we certainly, even in the physical body, can begin to look at areas of concern. So stuff that is around the like the limbic brain and our emotional feeling, which is kind of the next layer of the brain, the reproductive system, and which I mentioned earlier, because this really is the place where tribe forms, where we connect from baby to parents, parents to baby, and also even like that whole lower abdomen area. So it's a common area where there might be information that's coming up through the dog world because of that connection to that chakra. So but what happens essentially is that and I got a little tail there is just signaling me. We're moving on to cat energy now. Hello. Hi there. So the one thing I do want to say is you're going to notice now we've gone from a focus on self to a focus on others. And we're now going to go to a focus on self again, which is the cat frequency. But the only time that it's really only self is in that first frequency. I want you to think about these now as like building blocks. So it's physical safety, tribe in the dog energy. And then when we have those two, then we get the cat frequency. And the cat frequency, there's a reason that cats are as confident and cocky as they are, because it's an and, right? They have a certain kind of confidence and security that means that they go out and explore their world with such bravado and, you know, there's a reason that cats have 9 lives. It's because they're constantly getting themselves into crazy situations. They get out into their territory and really start to explore, which is a frequency that is so important even for us as women and as animal communicators. It's one of the areas that I find a lot of the time is lacking. So we women are kind of drawn to cats, you know. They're so like slinky and beautiful and kind of sexy and like mystical and powerful. And moochy and feminine all at the same time. As I'm
getting drooled all over.
As right? Alexa's getting mauled in the kind of, most way by her cat.
But it's also really interesting because, you know, some of you might relate to just like not feeling drawn to cats at all. Like that you're literally like, I don't do cats.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas it's more rare, right? It's more rare for people to be like, I don't do dogs. You know, most people are like, oh, dogs, you know, unless you've had a negative experience. But there's a lot of people that are like, I don't do cats.
Yeah. Right? A lot of people don't do cats. And it's because there's this kind of preconceived notion that cats are cruel, cats are selfish. And actually cats are really, because they're in a frequency that is about self, they're much more comfortable with the primal aspects of themselves. So they're much more kind of, they don't feel like being a cat is prohibitive to their like spiritual magnificence. They don't feel that way. They feel like there is this kind of real symbiosis between being self-full, and I'm going to use the word self-full because I'm going to try to put kind of like a positive spin on it, and being like spiritually magnificent, you know, being these like beings of divinity. And, you know, the Egyptians worship them, and, you know, there's so much exciting energy around cats. And yet a lot of the time we do feel uncomfortable about it because people that don't like cats, so just for a moment, if you love cats, just think about the stuff that people say about cats when they don't like cats. And that is reflective of their comfort with this part of their experience, this aspect of their life. So this is our teenage years. This is our rebellious phase. This is when we kind of get to this point where we go, actually, yeah, like loyalty and family and whatever. They want me to always do things their way. I want to do things my way. I know better. And as a jewel of knowledge for our own personal lives, if we haven't really done the cat energy, we often feel that we don't have the stamina or the endurance or the trust of self to do things that come later. So if you're a horse person and you've been having difficulties with your horse, or you've ever had like a learning curve with your horse, you'll realize that your horse went, get back to cat energy, grow a pair, be your own master. And it's not about being aggressive or dominant. It's not about, a lot of the time we think the people that don't like cats or don't like the cat energy within themselves think it's selfish, cruel, dominant, bossy. They have these like negative words that go with it. And actually there is a centeredness to cat that we need to work with horse, because it's building blocks. So, you know, these teenage years that, you know, actually men do this better. So if we were to look at these frequencies now, in terms of masculine and feminine, the ones that are around self are actually the masculine energies, and the ones that are around others and nurturing are the feminine energies. So naturally, and it's a generalization, naturally women will do the dog or the elephant and the horse energy. They're drawn to those and they're way more comfortable there. But the reptilian, the crocodile snake energy and the cat energy can be a little uncomfortable for them, because culturally we're not really given the same space and latitude to experiment with these energies. And that's why cats are so exciting to have in our world, to have as our little mystical teachers. There's a reason that the witches have cats, because they're not afraid of that energy, and they know that it unlocks their magic, because it's about trusting self. So this is that solar plexus energy. If we're moving through the chakra system, and we're going to think about it that way, the ability to go out on our own, to trust ourselves, to break the rules of the tribe. You know, that witches were persecuted because they broke the tribal rules. They didn't play by those rules. They knew a better way and they did it anyway, and they often had to be separate to do it. So it's a solitary journey. Any initiation ceremony, like ancient initiation, involves kind of journeying alone for a period of time and doing this cat energy, because it's about trusting self and finding that we have endurance and stamina.
Michelle just asked this really amazing question, which I'd love to take a crack at, about why many men don't like cats. And I think, Michelle, I have a few ideas about this, but I do think this might be like a Pandora's box kind of question. But,
it's a cool question in the current.
It's a cool question. And I do believe that in our particular time in the world, so for a long time, men were actually a part of their growing from a boy to a man was this initiation ceremony that Laura was just talking about. So that was a part of the tribal knowledge and knowing was, okay, the men go out, they, you know, they have to walk, you know, whether it's a vision quest in the desert or, you know, some of them got buried alive. Like there was sort of crazy stuff. You know, we don't have that in our culture anymore. And it's actually, I mean, you know, it's a can of worms, but I do think that there's sort of this, you know, for some men, cats represent that part of them that never really got to be, you know, honored and never got to grow into the men that they, you know, sort of had the potential of being. So we see that a lot in our culture now is we have these like what we call man boys, right? They never really had that. It's like when you put stress and pressure on something and it has to grow into itself. And that's sort of the cat energy. They're like, okay, it's the hero's journey. I'm leaving my tribe, which is incredibly hard. And I'm going over the mountain because I know in my heart of hearts that that's where I need to be to learn what I need to learn. And I'm just gonna handle what comes up along the way and the challenges that arise along the way. And then I'm going to see what happens, right? So it's not the fool putting his pack over his back and off he goes. And very often, you know, the people that are adverse to cats, they've never gone through that process. They may have like moved right out of their family home into a marriage, or they, you know, that sort of thing. So they never really got to initiate and like come through and sort of reach that potential.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, Alexa. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think beyond that, what then happens is when we don't have a healthy, because all of these frequencies can be in a state of health and balance in a naturalness, or they can be in an unhealthy place. And what we see a lot of the time is that when there is the absence of like a healthy pathway, healthy role models for how to move through these chapters of our lives or embrace these energetic, you know, it's like they get activated within us through life. And a lot of the time when there's not a healthy way, there's not an understanding of this anymore, we start to see the unhealthy side of it. And especially in the cat frequency, we see a lot of unhealthy stuff. So this can be a very, you know, that we see cats, you know, especially here in Australia, they're really destructive. They're really destructive to the natural environment. And a lot of people have issues with, you know, these cats as an introduced species and the effect that has on the environment. But that is, in a way, it's representative of the stuff we do that is unhealthy. So drinking too much, doing drugs, being self-destructive, being violent or aggressive, being domineering, and sometimes the male, the men in our lives, the male role models in our lives, have got a very unhealthy cat energy. So I'm just going to use the stereotypical violent, aggressive, alcoholic father. You know, that didn't allow you to be who you were and beat you. So then that means that you go, oh, I don't like that energy. I don't like it at all. It's just, I don't like it. And you'll have that like visceral response to cats because the cats hold that energy and they embody, it's like an archetypal energy, and then therefore our relationship with them is going to be that.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that we see a lot of the time. Women shy away from it, and for men they almost have this idea that it's like a bad thing, you know. They go through maybe their teenage years being bad boys, and then they have to just grow up, but they never kind of get the good stuff out of that. They never go, oh, actually that chapter in my life, oh, Parker, you're so awesome. Yeah, like, because Parker is, he's an awesome dude, and he is,
but he's also a murderer.
Yeah.
You know, that's the paradox of the cat, right? Is that they have these different aspects, this wildness that can be quite disconcerting, you know.
Yeah.
And also that part of them that, you know, a dog will, you know, if you ask them to do something, generally they're like, okay. Whereas a cat, they're like, did you just say something? Like, why would I, why? You know, it's a very different thing. There's not a control aspect to a cat that, you know, makes it a very different energy already, you know, where they're like, no, I'm first, you know. I always think when with dogs, like, you know, yes, they're so enmeshed with us that you will often see their symptoms. With cats, they will like literally go around and be like, ooh, I need to work on you because you're just like disrupting my space. Like, can we just like sort out these chakras? Because I'm not at peace right now, right? Yeah. Like, this is how cats function in a space. So you'll think they're doing it out of goodwill, and in some ways they are, but in another way they're like, I need to find harmony. Yeah. And you're disrupting that harmony.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If any of you guys know my cat Toby, he's quite aloof. He doesn't really like to be touched by human hands. He's a real funny character. He's very independent. He grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, you know, like he's a real bad boy. He's a real survivor. And my partner, Matt, is a very gentle person. He's a vegetarian. He's very kind, gentle, soft man. And the times that Toby will choose to sit on his lap or be really close to him, it's very, very specific contexts. So I remember one time Matt had to kill we had like a rat infestation, and we'd set some traps and one of the rats hadn't like died. It was, you know, it was horrible, and poor Matt had to, you know, finish the rat off. And Toby really chooses these moments to acknowledge him. You know, he came and when Matt was struggling with that, the cat came and sat on his lap, which he's only done a handful of times, and was like, yes, now you are a man.
Totally.
I'm proud of you, you know. And he did the same. We've had some like family stuff going on, and Matt at one stage had to really stand up to his family and be quite firm, and, you know, not be the child anymore, not be in the dog energy anymore, but be the cat energy. And that day, again, Toby sat on his lap, which is just such an unusual thing for him to do. And he really acknowledged him. And the other place that Toby loves to hang out with Matt is when Matt's in his office. So he will sit on the office chair, and it's because Matt's really in that, like, he's in his hunter energy. He's like out there in the world, you know, doing his business, being a businessman. And Toby loves that. And so he will acknowledge him and bring his energy really subtly in to acknowledge, you know, and that's just his particular way, because other than that, he's never around, but he does it in those moments. And it's exceptionally significant because he's giving the, you know, the thumbs up to, yes, that's it. That's it.
Yes. And Michelle asked that age-old question of, is that why cats go and sit on the laps of people that don't like cats?
Yeah. They're like, yeah. Yeah.
We're just going to help you get past this. We're amazing.
Cats don't have an issue asserting themselves or creating conflict as a way of facilitating change.
Yeah.
You know, this is a little repeat, but one of my first animal communication lessons, and I had cats when I was a child, and I was always very deeply, deeply conflicted about the fact that I loved mice and I loved cats, and the cats would kill the mice. And how could I love a cat if they did this horrible thing that my human mind said was cruel, and I had all this judgment about it, I had all this emotion about it. And cats just very, very gently and firmly hold that space of, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is what I am. I'm okay with it. Can you be okay with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as human beings, if you are a human being and you haven't had moments where you've gone, fuck, we are a shitty species.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, like, I've had to do a lot of work to come to terms with the fact that I'm human and I'd much rather just about be anything else, because there's a lot about being human that I don't like. And yet if I don't like it and I reject it and I push it away, I am missing a huge part of what my contribution on the planet here is. The stuff that I don't like about myself is as important to reconcile, harmonize, and turn into something positive as the stuff I do like about myself. Yeah. We cannot reject that part of ourselves, and cats embody that. And that's it's a really galvanizing and powerful energy. And powerful is the right word, because it is where our power sits. It's not about rejecting that part of ourselves. It's about finding a way to embrace it and trust it. And then that serves us later, because we're, and I want to move on to the horse energy now. Because
we just got two little questions from Catherine that I wanted to just bring up real quick before we. The first one is around cats being quite attuned to spirits and energies and things at play. And yes, they tend to be, as a frequency, they tend to be more in tune with those levels. Although I have a dog right now that sees all of that as well, that I'm working with, which is I find quite interesting. So some dogs will tune in to different things. So you'll see them staring up at corners and, and she also says that her cat is helping her to heal and ascend and not afraid of her emotions. Yeah. So like Laura just said, they're so open and present to you being real. They love that. It feels great for them. Yeah. So you'll get a lot of great recognition from your cat when you step into that, this is who I am, this is what I need place. Yeah. Yeah. That's how they judge.
Exactly. And if you come to any of our workshops, I don't, Alexa and I really firmly believe your third eye and all this intuitive woo-woo stuff up here is all for naught if you don't have your cat energy working for you, because the reason that cats are so spiritually powerful is because they trust themselves. Mm-hmm. They trust themselves. It is how they survive. It's how they energetically engage. They just, a dog, if you put a dog out, not all dogs, there are some dogs, if you dump them out in the bush or out in the forest, they will survive. But a lot of the time dogs are so domesticated and they're so dependent on their tribe that they won't survive. Whereas a cat, it doesn't matter. You can have the fluffiest rag doll in the world. If you put them out in the forest, they will be wild again like that. Their instinct and their ability to trust themselves and their primal nature to become wild again is so there waiting for them and that, when we talk about our intuition, our animal intuition, our ability to trust the information, not just receive the information, but actually trust and act on it. Mm. That's our cat energy. And so much of the time when you guys come into workshops, you're so intuitive. We get the most incredible intuitive people, and the only piece that's missing is the cat energy around trusting it and acting on it. And when you have that, then you can really start to learn how to use this power again, because we are like cats. This wild animal part of us is just waiting to get activated again, and we can do it too.
Absolutely.
But the cats.
Absolutely. And Michelle's asking about that, and that's exactly it, Michelle. It's practice, because oftentimes we're so patterned to step into dog energy, especially as women, where we're okay, I need to please others, I need to caretake, I need to put others' needs in front of mine all the time, and that's the only way that I can get through. And so when we listen to those voices, we just ask ourselves, is that the truth? Can I take space for myself? Can I practice being bold and courageous and speaking up for what I need? Can I, these are the pieces, and
am I okay with getting it wrong? Am I okay with getting it wrong? How, those funny videos of cats on the internet do not because cats are worried about getting it wrong.
Right? They do not worry. Parker, he was determined to climb this massive maple in our yard, and literally every day he would just like throw himself against this like huge tree. You know, he was like 3 months old, and he would just like Spider-Man on this tree. And I thought to myself, like, what a freaking, like, he's just such a great role model, because he was just determined. It wasn't like, oh my God, I can't do it. It was like, one day I'll get up this. I just like get up a little higher every day, right? And it's like an amazing thing. And that so often with the dog energy, that can sometimes be intertwined with the perfectionist part of us that's like, oh, like that we don't even try, that we're so hard on ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't want to do anything. I want to just be accepted by my tribe. That my tribe is the most important thing to me. Whereas when the cat energy in us is, and you know, we're moving through these all the time, and it's situational. But if we've got cat stuff going on, we are afraid of getting it wrong. We are afraid to put ourselves out there. Yeah. We don't trust ourselves yet. We don't trust that we've got 9 lives.
Yeah.
And you know, and the cats really show us that that's okay. Like, it's a good, that's what lights them up. That's living. You know, they get out there and they explore their territory. You can keep a dog in a backyard. You cannot keep a cat.
No.
You gotta think, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have to get onto the horse, because
we have to, otherwise we're going to run out of time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't believe it at the beginning, but now I see it.
Yeah, it happens.
And by the way, everybody, there is a full 2-day workshop on this that Laura is coming to teach in Canada in July. And so if you come to my level, like my module 1 course, either in Aldergrove on the March 10th, 11th, or here at Firefly, April 14th, 15th, then you can take that course, and it's flipping amazing. The people that have taken it are just like, so it goes much more deeply into this and actually talks to those, you know, we get a chance to communicate with those animals and see what they have to say. It's super cool. So anyways, just want to put that out there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because there's 8 frequencies that I talk about that are kind of relevant to our experience as humans and the contracts that animals have with us. And really, like, the reason I'm talking about dogs, cats and horses is because I do really feel that 2, 3 and 4, dogs, cats, horses are the most important to us for the stuff we're dealing with in our lives now. Now, that doesn't mean that we are doing, you know, we're not children anymore. We might not be teenagers anymore. We may even be doing stuff that's beyond the horse energy. However, usually if we're experiencing something in our world and we're experiencing something with our animals, there's something that they're trying to communicate to us, with us. There's something that they want us to get about something that might be going on for us in one of these frequencies. So they will bring lessons. They'll enter contracts with us to teach us and activate us around some of this stuff. So let's get on to horse quickly. And
here we said we were going to talk about horses the whole time, but you know,
yeah,
it's okay.
Well, you know, horses are really cool because horses, where we're going to move back into, there's a like a dynamic between these energies. We go self, others, self, others. So horses takes us back into others, but this is a very different kind of relationship now. It's a very different bond. So if I kind of link this with this concept of marriage or partnership, the kind of partnership and bond, the kind of connection that is possible for us when we have resolved any issues around the tribe of origin, the stuff we've inherited, the relationship we watched our parents have, when we truly know who we are and what we want, and when we're okay to speak up about that, then we can have an amazing relationship that's a much more equal partnership. And horses embody this so beautifully because they cannot be overpowered by us. They absolutely cannot be overpowered by us. Their size, their physical strength, and their power means that we actually negotiate a partnership with horses. It's a marriage. It's a bond that is possible when we've done this other work. And a lot of the time, if we're doing, and I mentioned this earlier, if we are doing stuff, I feel like I can feel myself talking faster and faster and faster. Because I'm excited. if we've got stuff going on with our horse, so often they will show us that the partnership hasn't yet clicked, that it hasn't come together because there might be a piece that we're missing from somewhere else. So if we, especially the cat energy, horses do encourage us to get our bit of like, no, this is what I want. This is what we're doing. We have to have a bit of that about us when we work with horses. Yet, if we think that we're going to dominate a horse and bully them around, we have got another thing coming. Because, yeah, you might be able to get the horse to do some things for you, but in that moment where it counts, where you need them to jump over that large obstacle for you, or go on that unknown trail, or like ride away from the other horses, if you don't have that partnership on that bond and there's not something in it for the horse, they will bail out. So this is like sacred marriage stuff. This is about, can we be partners? And what does it take from, and this is where Alexa's whole horse apprenticeship is so exciting, because really it examines on so many levels what it is that we as humans can do to give back to our horses, so that our horses feel like they have something out of this relationship with humans. Horses partnered with humanity a long time ago, and since that time, they have taken humans further and faster than they could have gone alone, which is what a good partnership does. They carried us on their backs. They lent us their horsepower to plough our fields. Agriculture was driven by horses, doing agriculture on a mass scale was driven by horses. Conquering new worlds, traveling out and expanding our world beyond what we would have been able to travel on our own 2 feet has happened through horses. And there was a time there where, humans and horses relied on each other so much. And in fact, a lot of the natural habitat of horses now doesn't exist anymore. We would have actually probably eaten them had we not formed some kind of symbiotic partnership. But even though we now drive around in tractors and have cars and we don't rely on horses for transport anymore, it is a place that we go for kind of that like connection of the heart. And this is really where we are. We're in this heart energy with horses. There is a certain amount of like the heart in it. If you love horses and I know I can see lots of you on the call that I know.
Yeah, I was going to say there's lots of horse lovers on this call.
Yeah, like, when you're like a little girl, I don't know about you, but I never had fantasies about getting married. I had like about having that like amazing horse that I could ride off into the sunset.
Both me and Laura have this thing where we're like driving along in the car, and all we're thinking is about how we would ride along the side of that road, and then we'd jump this thing, and then we'd have to go around this ditch, and like we've talked about it before and gone, you do that too?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this was sort of where we both began. And I'm sure, Laura, you can concur, like, I don't know where that came from.
I don't know. I've always done it. Yeah. I don't know where it came
always from. Been there. Like that obsession to me as like, and that love has always been present in me. And I don't remember where it came from or whatnot. And yeah, like and it's wild to me. It's like, it was born into me, that this partnership needed to happen in some shape or form.
Yeah. And so, the horse energy really is an exciting energy because it does teach us about partnership. There's a reason also, I began to really notice this pattern where, like a lot of my clients were women who were getting maybe into horses after having their families and after having children, or getting back into horses. And there was something that they were searching for. There was something they were playing with. And a lot of the time there is a bit of friction between women and their horses and the jealousy of their husbands or partners about that. Because it's a very like intimate bond. It's a very, very close bond. And it's because it actually exists in the same frequency. It's another representation of that part of our lives where we are looking for a partnership that gives us wings. You know, we're looking for a partnership that gives us wings. And horses do this in that emotional sense. But the other place that they do it is also, and this is going to sound like a little bit boring, but we're working with the heart here. So we're talking about circulation of energy, energy input, energy output. If you've got horses, you've had to deal with the equation around how much do I feed this horse so that they have the energy to do the things that I want them to do and that they're not completely off their heads and,
right.
and have too much energy.
Yeah.
How do I keep condition on this horse and not have them be in a position where they're losing condition? So there's all these like mathematical equations. How much exercise does this horse need, and what kind of training for how long do I do with this horse so that they understand the things that I'm teaching them to do and that I'm not exhausting them or burning them out? And these little equations around the systems in our life, it's actually something that comes with maturity and adulthood. So we're now into the adult phase of our experience. We're learning, and that doesn't mean you can't learn this stuff as a child. You can, but you know, it's and you know, and that said, I see it even with friends who have children with horses. They take care of a lot of these adult things about the horse, and the kids ride. And it's as we get older. I know for me, it wasn't until I got older and I had this amazing experience with my mare Gypsy that I really had to start thinking about, not, you know, all I wanted to do as a kid was ride, but I really had to start thinking about, how do I keep my horse happy and maintained? How do I meet her needs? Because if I don't meet her needs, she's not going to be a willing participant in this experience of riding and doing things together. And in actual fact, like, that is something that I need to have, otherwise I can't ride her. Otherwise it turns into a disaster. I can't overpower her. I'm a little person and she's a big horse. So how do I begin to make compromises to create the systems that allow us? And when you've got those systems in place, when the horse is getting the right amount of exercise, the right amount of food, they're in a paddock that they're happy in, all their needs are met, then you can start to do exciting stuff. Then you get the wings. But so often we resist that part of it, and that is one of the big lessons that horses teach us. So, you know, and we are going to run out of time. There's so much more on this, and you know, there's
oh my gosh, I know. Yeah. It's just like, oh, there's so much. I think, you know, that I see that so deeply with, you know, my partnership with Diva, and you know, horses, they have these core needs that as a partner we start to hopefully, you know, understand and meet, but it's also a reflection back for ourselves. What are my core needs? Where, you know, so often, and I think this is one reason, and I think it's important to share, like, why women, you know, we see in the horse world, like, it's like 95% women. Like, it's crazy how many, you know, how like lopsided things are, right? And I think part of that is that it's a place where we can actually start to find our own needs being met, our needs for connection and partnership, and you know, something deeper. We can, you know, even have certain needs met around like what we want to learn about and where we want to grow. And there's a sense of safety there and comfort in just being with horses. And I know Laura has talked about this idea of like horses representing the heart energy. It's like you literally go into the barn, and how many of us are like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I just feel like a weight is coming off, just stepping into the space of our horses. And it's like they have one of the biggest heart fields of all animals, you know. We step right in to that space, right?
And I had a horse say something really beautiful to me a little while ago, which really brought a lot of it into clarity. So in that sacred marriage, in that partnership, it is equal, but there is also a masculine and a feminine dynamic. and so many of us find that when we work with horses, we women, we struggle with the masculine energy. And if we have got unresolved stuff in cat energy and we haven't seen that that masculine energy be utilized in a positive way, sometimes we go into too much dominance. We get too aggressive or bossy or defensive with our horses, too demanding with our horses, and that actually will breed resentment. And what it was this particular horse that said it to me. He was quite a big, solid, like blokey horse, and the lady that rode him was a very gentle, kind, soft woman, and they were having difficulties in their relationship. And he said to me, I know that I'm the guy and she's the girl, but I'm a horse and she's a human, and we need to be dance partners. And in order for us to be dance partners, she needs to be the man. When we see the most beautiful like dressage tests being ridden, or the most magnificent partnerships with horse and human, the rider is still and centered. They're like the man and the horse with the flowing mane and the billowing tail is the woman in the dress, and all that beauty and expression can come out, and it's not a domineering, bullying dance partner. It's the man, it's the masculine energy, and that is what the horses want from us, is for us to be in that sacred marriage, for the human to be the masculine and the horse to be the feminine. It's not one to be more than, one to be less than, one to be more, like it's, we talk about partnerships, it is 50-50, but there is always a dynamic that makes the partnership work.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a Latin dancer, I understand this completely, because I've been on the dance floor with very dominant partners, and I've literally walked away before. Yeah. I've been like, because I felt in danger. I felt unsafe. Yeah. And then they're not thinking of me. They're not actually thinking of my needs, right? Yeah.
And you've probably had the opposite as well, where you've had like people that are not strong enough, that you don't feel safe with, that you can't do the back bend with, or you can't do the jump.
Totally. And nor do you even know what they're asking of you, right? Yeah. There's this disconnect of like, I don't understand what you're asking. It's not clear to me. And the best partners are the ones that are they're so clear. There's such a holding, and you feel so met and held in that you're like, I can do anything. I feel totally safe here. And I think that that feels like the balance you're trying to describe there.
Yeah, totally. Really so Taja's got a really cool question, which is about what does the fear of horses represent? And what I would say about that is that there can be a fear of the power of the horse, the acceleration that the horse can give us in our lives. There is a certain there's horsepower behind horses. They are big and powerful animals, so there can be fear of that. But it can also be about that fear of that kind of sacred marriage, that kind of partnership, and what that will accelerate in us. Because as we know, our intimate relationships, and it doesn't matter if it's male, female, or otherwise, there is that masculine feminine dynamic. There is compromise, there is surrender, there is like vulnerability, there is strength. There's all those things in it. That can be a very frightening place. Yeah. To no longer be fully in charge of it for yourself. And Taja, it's a great question coming from you, because I know that there's so much like cat work that you're doing at the moment. So at the moment there's a lot of focus on self, and that feels probably a bit safer because you're in charge of yourself. Moving into that partnership place, it's like it's not just us anymore. And that can be a fear. And the acceleration, the force, the power behind it is very different with horse.
Absolutely. And I love that there was this lovely comment from Christine where she talked about this sense of the human part of the partnership as the frame, and the horse as the picture coming through, right? And so that sense of being really, really held and being able to fully express. I just love that idea. And Tarja, I completely get it too. I don't have a fear of horses, I think, because so obsessed. But also I know that they reflect in me that entering of that sacred marriage and that partnership piece, because it's like it is easy for some of us to be quite independent, and so to like enter into a space where we're working together and collaborating and all of those is it's a learning, right?
Yeah. So, to kind of like wrap it all up, and we've had to rush through some things, and I could honestly, and I have talked about this for hours. There's an online decoding course that looks at each of the 8 frequencies and a bunch of other stuff also about how we journey through those frequencies and how that has other archetypal links for us. But what I'd love for you guys to take away a little bit is to just recognize the difference, the core difference in the energy of these species and the themes, the emotions, the belief systems that they bring into focus for us. And if we've got something that's going on in our relationship with our dog or our cat or our horse, if there's something that's going on health-wise, if there's something that's going on in behaviorally, oh my gosh, I always mess that word up, then we kind of have maybe a little bit of context about what part of myself might that be talking to. If I think about it in terms of my journey, my physical body, my health, my areas of strength and weakness, what part of me is that talking to? And does that then all of a sudden give a little bit more awareness or understanding, that little aha moment where you realize that animal is trying to teach you something really vital to serve you in your life? Because all of this will, these energies and these frequencies, we use them in our everyday lives. And we have, of course, some that we're proficient in and some that we are still learning in. And we can go back and forth all the time gathering information. But because of the way they work together, often, even if we're way out doing other stuff, there'll be something there'll be like a little gold nugget that we're missing that our animal is trying to share with us. And I really believe that these 3 frequencies in particular, because they relate so much to our everyday life, to our real experiences of family, self, and partnerships, and like that idea of marriage and moving forward. And that's, whether we're partnered or not, this energy is still present. These energies and these animals are in constant conversation with us to stretch us and expand us and get us to think differently and retrieve information that as humans we might delete because it's culturally not okay. Like we talked about that a lot with the cat energy. But animals just have this way of going, no, there's good stuff here. Just like go into that primal place where you're not thinking about the human understanding of the world, but you're thinking about the good things that these different animals bring into our worlds. And so something to play with.
Yeah, Christy just had a really interesting question here. So as we finish up here, everybody, if you have any other questions, please pop them in the chat, because we definitely don't want to go over an hour and a half. I'm thinking it's probably tapped out for us. But Christy asked about what if you crave your relationship with your animals, but you resent relationships with people. What does that kind of share? And I think there's some interesting. That's again, it's a bit of a Pandora's box, Christy, because I think a part of that for many of us is that, being a human is hard sometimes. And, when we're living in the more human world, we're dealing with more judgment from others, criticism, the need for approval, all sorts of messy stuff at times. And with our animals, it feels easier because we feel like very loved unconditionally. We feel like we can be ourselves, all these things.
Yeah. And what I would actually also challenge a little bit is that, because I know, Christy, you have dogs and horses, but I don't know what your relationship is to the cat energy. And it actually a lot of the time can actually be in relationship with self. It's about having the confidence that you're okay out there in the world by yourself and that you're safe to assert the things that you want and need. And when you have that, then the relationships with other humans becomes a lot more comfortable, becomes a lot safer. And that is like a big piece a lot of the time that's missing. And that's the gift that cats have for us. It's not, we often avoid it because we're like, oh, it's self. But actually it is so vital so that we can have fair and equal relationships with other human beings, that we can turn up, that we can be present, that we can bring all of ourselves and not be afraid. And Parker is 100% here to, like, really, I can't tell you how important the cat energy is, and it's right there in our solar plexus. So many of us have stuff around our diaphragm, around our digestive systems, around our relationship to food, the way we nurture and nourish ourselves or don't nurture and nourish ourselves.
And I was going to say boundaries is a huge thing with cats, right? Like, you know what it's like to try to pet a cat that's like, and no. You know, they're very, very good with boundaries, and letting us know very, very clearly. And most of us as humans, you know, it's a big barrier in our relationships, is we don't feel safe actually saying no and setting boundaries. And so we get really walked all over. We get, and
then we shy away, and we go and we find that connection with dogs and horses. But there will also be a little bit of the missing of the cat energy, especially with the horses. When we start to do stuff with the horses, the absence of the cat energy eventually will show itself, especially when we start to ask more of our horses. Because if we don't have the cat energy present, the horse energy will fall over. You know, it's the difference between having a sacred marriage, a beautiful marriage, a wonderful partnership, or being in a partnership where one person's in charge and the other person gets walked all over.
Good question.
Fabulous question. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this call. I hope that it's been valuable, and this is a topic we could go into more and more. And we do in module 2 of the Animal Translator program, and we also do we've got a little online course as well. So if you've got questions about any of that, just get in touch with us, and we will send you in the right direction. And I look forward to sharing more and more of this with you in the future. And thank you, Alexa, for joining me again and being part of this whole.
I'm so excited to be hosting Laura here again in July in Canada on Vancouver Island. So if any of you are Canadian, we'll keep you posted on the dates and things for that. But, you know, as you can tell, she is an absolute wealth of information, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I so appreciate, Laura, you taking the time and sharing with us, and for everybody out there. I know it's, you know, we're all busy, and it means a lot to us that you came on here and spent an hour and a half with us, and you know, I know it means a lot to your animals as well. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Have fun, keep communicating, and hopefully this puts a few little things into context, and just gives your animal teachers some themes. You know, you can kind of think about the messages they send you in terms of themes and how they serve those different parts of you and those different parts of your life.
Totally. Oh, so good to see you all out there. Yeah, and we really had fun tonight. So thanks for letting us share, and thanks for being willing to tune in.
Cool. I'm gonna sign off, and we'll talk to you guys soon, hopefully. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Good night.
Give your animals cuddles. If they're a cat and they're like, fuck off, then just don't worry about it. But if they're open to it, go for it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone.